I want to do something very different. I want to get a little more personal about situations that I would call them deceptive, especially when it applies to real estate and the mindset of thinking about real estate and how to process those thoughts. First off, just being real. My father passed away last month, and it's been a very hard month. And what was in all that, something else happened. My YouTube channel just blew up. I mean, I doubled my subscriptions of YouTubers. My subscription doubled in a matter of a month or so. And why does these two things tie into each other? Well, on YouTube, when you do a video, you get comments of how you did on the video and what their people's beliefs are. And the last month, I've been reading the comments, and they've been very touching to me, because I don't always, of course, I don't know that every subscriber out there. I don't know the people that watch my video, but sometimes I touch people in a certain way, and it's relatable to their situation. And I've had a lot of compliments from my videos, and it came at a time in my life that I really appreciate it. And I guess it just goes to show that sometimes when you say something nice or kind, you really don't know what somebody's going through in their life and the value of a kind word. Well, especially on YouTube, because no shortage of unkind words. But how does this relate to real estate in Florida? Okay, let me get to the point. So my YouTube channel is monetized, and I'm making money on YouTube. Was never really my intent. I never thought anything about that as a motivation. I started my channel to procure real estate business for myself, and I am the broker of a real estate office, and with that, I'm also helping other people in the office. So that was the intent of my YouTube channel when I started the YouTube, but it's now monetized, and it's doing pretty good, and I'm getting very good feedback, which is very helpful, because I'm not a person that's motivated by money. I'm more motivated by words of appreciation, and I'll work harder for appreciation than I will money all day long. And I guess my curse or blessing, however you look at it, is I am a people pleaser. I like to help people, and that's why real estate has always worked really well for me in my career, because it's fed my spirit of helping people and making an important decision in their life. And as such, I've been in real estate going on 40 years now, but I always knew I wanted to be in real estate. So this YouTube channel is now monetized. It's doing really well. So the other part of me always looks at the aspect of business. What is the business aspect of everything? And I look at this YouTube channel, and I realize that this is a moneymaker. Even though I did not intend for it to be a moneymaker, I'm doing okay on it, right? So, what would happen if I just explored that opportunity of just making videos and focusing on that? Well, I realize that, to make the most amount of money on YouTube, that I have to create content that people want to hear. And what's the content people want to hear right now in this market? Everyone wants to hear that the market is crashing. They want to hear things are terrible, and that prices are going to come down, and they'll be able to afford a home where now they're not affordable, depending on where they're at. So a lot of people are looking for bad news. Bad news sells really well, especially on YouTube. And if I create all these scary videos, I could profit and do extremely well on that endeavor. I know that very clearly. But that just doesn't feed my spirit either. I mean, I think where I've gotten some good feedback on my videos is I am brutally honest, and not from a standpoint that I need the sale. I never need the sale. It's really about what's best for the overall good of the people that I work with. Not an attorney, but I certainly give my opinion on things that I've seen in my 40 years. And I've gotten a lot of good feedback. And I've had some people even say, Troy, you've done a good job discouraging me. I will never move to Florida. And that's okay. I mean, as long as it's upfront and honest. But that's what feeds my soul, is just being very real with people. And my father was a vet, and at his service, the word that kept coming out was he was a very selfless person. He always put everybody ahead of himself, and sometimes you don't see that when you see a person, because he was a very strong person too. He liked to collect guns, and he was very strong in his belief systems, and you know, you knew that when he said something, it was what it was. There was never gray with my father. He was very clear on how he thought, and sometimes it wasn't against popular, or it was against popular belief, but it was how he thought. And you know, I look back at that, and you know, you don't think about these things until you lose a parent, and then your life changes. And I think back in my life, and there's been only 2 times that I can remember where I really felt like my life changed instantly. And the first one was when my son was born, and I had a little baby, and now my life was no longer about me. It was about him, and trying to protect him and make sure that I gave him the best opportunity that I did. And without a long story, I could tell you that was a very challenging process in my life, because there are circumstances that happened that I really had to fight to help my son, and he's turned out really, really well, and I'm really, really proud of my son, who's 24 years old now, and on his own, and he lives here in Sarasota in his own house. But just the spirit that, you know, when you do pass on one day, you know, what's the legacy that you left for somebody else? And my dad left a phenomenal legacy. He wasn't mega rich, you know, he wasn't a movie star. You know, maybe on the surface you wouldn't see that he's, you know, this incredible person, but when you think about what he's done and the people that he's touched. He lived in this area in South Carolina called Walhalla, South Carolina, and at his service there were a lot of people there. I'm kind of touched, because, you know, how many people do you touch in your lifetime? And is it really all about money? I mean, if it's about money and on YouTube, I can start all these scary videos and doing all these things, but is it honest? I mean, I just find that a lot of the stuff that's being presented there's a motive behind it. And I know that motive on YouTube is to get the highest ranking, so it monetizes and you make a profit from that, and people are doing that. But the public is feeding into that too. They want to hear these things, and they're not always true. Now, I am exhausted right now. I've gone up to South Carolina a couple times last month, and a couple weeks we're gonna bury my dad at the cemetery here, the VA cemetery. But I need a little break. I need a break. And I'm gonna go to California, just me, because I always feel that when I'm with somebody else, part of my spirit wants to always make sure they're okay, taken care of, and they're fine, and you know, and it's sometimes to my detriment. So I don't want that. I mean, I believe in family vacations and stuff, but I need some time to me. And I am an only child, or I was at one. And then ironically, my father adopted his granddaughter when my 2 stepbrothers, they actually passed on. There's issues. But my dad in his 70s was raising his second family. As grandparents, they were raising their granddaughter. And my sister, she's an amazing person. I mean, she's somebody that will do incredibly well in her life, and you know that just because of the person that she was sculpted to be, and that she had the same father I did. So I know she's going to be okay, and she was scripted to do well. So she's finishing college, going to be a nurse, and then go back and further her education. But boy, life throws you some strange things, you know. But there's so much propaganda out there, and it's so easy to buy into this stuff. And it's so easy when somebody tells us something we want to hear. We want to hear that things are bad, and I'm not saying they're not bad. I'm just saying that they're different. And I'm going back to California. I'm going back to where I was born and raised. And here's something that I think is really interesting about that whole dynamic, because I study the real estate market, in areas that I really like. And I went to elementary, middle, and part of my high school in Santa Barbara, California. And I was one of those, I was a really weird kid, right? I knew the real estate market probably better than most real estate agents in our area, for our neighborhood anyway, because I knew every time there was a home for sale, I documented it and what it sold for, and I know that really well in my heart. And I remember one time when my parents put their house on the market, we actually got a hold of an old Santa Barbara MLS book, which I still have today. So I know the market real well. And today I can look back, and with technology, it's easy to go on the computer and look at what property values are and where they are. Now, California, you're hearing so many stories about how awful California is and how the market is sinking, and the homeless issue and stuff. Well, I can tell you from my research, Santa Barbara is not sinking. I mean, the values have not been falling at all. Not till this point. I don't know where they are moving forward. And again, the propaganda makes it feel like if this is true, then it's true all across the board. And the same for Sarasota, Florida. I'm not seeing this market crashing, and I don't know that it will, because Florida is a destination location. We have so many people coming to Florida, and for it to crash, it's going to it basically becomes a supply imbalance, where you have more supply than demand, and then property values start going down. And that happened last time because the banks were loaning anybody that could fog a mirror could get financing, and they were building homes without buyers. So what could possibly go wrong in that situation? Well, eventually that's not sustainable, and people couldn't afford to make their mortgage payments. Well, that's not the case this time. We have people that they're upset because interest rates have gone up so fast, so quick, and they're saying we can't afford the house. So therefore, if we can't afford it, there's an affordability problem, and therefore property values have to come down. So here's the propaganda about that. Is that the case? Is affordability always a reason why property values have to come down? I'm not discounting that, it's a hardship, but the fact is, Santa Barbara, there's no affordability. You can't, $1.5 million you buy your home. There's no affordability, and in other parts of California there is no affordability. But real estate still sells. There's still a demand for real estate. And I am seeing the same thing in our area. I'm seeing areas that people want to live are doing really well, even in all this turmoil of market adjustment. So I don't have a crystal ball, but I think a lot of people, as I mentioned from my YouTube channel, I can make a lot of money if I create a lot of propaganda people want to hear about things that may or may not be true. But that's just not my spirit. I mean, I have done videos to help people be very real, be very aware, and your subscription means a lot to me. Your involvement, and for all the people that wrote me kind words, not knowing what I was going through, or am still going through at this time, I want to thank you. You really had an impact on my life, even though we haven't met yet, right? But I do appreciate that. There's never a time where kindness is not appreciated, and I appreciate all the kindness that I'm getting from my channel. And with that, I'm excited to be going to California. I need a break. I need a little bit of a rest. I'm going to take one step backwards and 2 steps forward and move forward. As I love real estate, I always have loved real estate, and I found a vehicle now that I can communicate with the public in a very real way to help those that I intend to help, and leave a legacy like my dad of being very honest and real, and being selfless in that journey. So with that, I thank you for watching this. I wish you well, and I'll see you on my next video.